is the kind of thing that we need to get knowledgeable about. All of us remember how during the run-up to the war on Iraq in 2003, we heard a great deal of information that turned out to be wrong, perhaps intentionally wrong. It was not a good public debate, and we all suffered the consequences, both here and, even more importantly, the Iraqi people. And it's important that we don't repeat that, though it looks like some people seem to have no historical memory at all. So it's important for us, no matter what we ultimately decide is the proper resolution of this problem, which is the possibility that Iran may develop a nuclear weapon, to understand the facts as best we can perceive them and become articulate spokespersons with our friends and our neighbors in our organizations, in our congregations, etc. So that is the primary reason this is an educational event, which is proper an educational institution. Now, those are the topics I'm going to cover. What you'll see is not there is an analysis of Iran's nuclear program. Professor Michael Neiman, who is here and is on the faculty at SOU in the International Studies program, will talk about that. And the relations, both historical and current, between Iran and the United States, which Daniel Guy, who is president of Veterans for Peace, chapter 158.
What, 6?
156 we'll talk about. But these are the things I'm going to talk about. We're going to begin with a little science, not a lot, because when people talk about
turning on your keyboard.
Thank you, Kevin. When people talk about they're enriching uranium, I don't know how many of you know what the hell that means. How many of you do know what that means? Oh, good. I'm glad I'm covering this. There are two fuels for a fission bomb, sometimes called an atomic bomb. One is plutonium, and the other is uranium, a certain isotope of uranium. Plutonium is, for the most part, a manufactured product. There is a little of it in nature, but it wasn't even discovered until after humans manufactured it. Iran has no capacity to produce uranium because it's produced in reactors, and it does not have a nuclear reactor. What? Did I say uranium?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Plutonium. Plutonium is a byproduct of the fissioning in reactors. When they pull the spent nuclear fuel rods out, that's one of the things in the mix. It's not too hard to separate it out from other radioactive products because it's chemically different, and you can separate chemicals from each other rather easily. That's different, however, than separating isotopes of the same chemical, which brings us to uranium. Uranium is a naturally occurring element. Its atomic weight is 92. But in nature, most of the uranium is, as a matter of fact, non-fissionable. It's an isotope U-238. 99.3% of naturally occurring uranium is U-238. And it's no good if you want to have a fission process, either for civilian or military purposes. So you have to get a much higher percentage in your blend of U-235 than U-238. And that's what's meant by enrichment. You increase or enrich the amount of the isotope U-235 in your mix. Now that's not easy. It's not easy because isotopes are not chemically different from each other. They differ because of a different number of neutrons in the atom. So the only way you can separate them is physically. You can't separate them chemically. And the physical process depends on the almost infinitesimal difference in weight between U-238 and U-235. That is 3 neutrons worth of weight. Now, during the Manhattan Project, there was more than one process used as the United States struggled to get enough U-235 for bombs. But the preferred way now is a centrifuge. And if you ever have been around a centrifuge, you know that when you spin something very fast, the heavier stuff moves toward the end of the, say, test tube, if you've got a test tube spinning around. So if, say, you take your blood and you want to separate the serum from the cells, you spin it around, and the cells, which are heavier, clump out at the end of your test tube, and the serum is different. But it takes a hell of a long time to do it. Now, in order to get enough enrichment to do a controlled reactor process, as in a civilian nuclear power plant, the enrichment doesn't have to be very high. It can be well under 10% U-235 in the total mix. But and for some medical isotopes, you have to go higher.